Good evening and welcome to our second Alumni Education webinar. My name is Jean Chiser and I oversee Alumni Education Programming for the Alumni Association. Throughout this webinar, you are invited to submit questions by typing them into the question box in the webinar dashboard. Your questions will be sent directly to us here at the Alumni Association and will only be viewable by us. After the presentation is complete, we will ask our presenter to answer as many questions as possible. Throughout the webinar, we will be asking for your participation through a series of 4 poll questions, and we are going to implement the first one right now. This one is pretty simple, but it will give us some demographic information about who is participating in this webinar. As you can see, the first poll question has appeared on your screen. Please choose the answer that applies to you. Okay, I'm going to close the poll because 90% of you have voted. And what we have here is interesting. We have a pretty close tie between 44 and 45%. So basically 90% of the people on this call graduated either 11 to 25 years ago or over 25 years ago. Okay, I am now pleased to introduce tonight's webinar presenter, Stephanie St. Martin. Stephanie is a proud double eagle and serves as the social media manager for university advancement here at Boston College. What that means is she manages all of BC social media networks. She joined Boston College in January 2013, and under her care, Stephanie has exponentially grown these networks and engaged alumni with the school through both conversation and giving. Stephanie is a published author and has been the featured pet blogger for Boston.com. When she has the time, she is also an adjunct philosophy professor at Middlesex Community College. I am happy to welcome all of you tonight and to turn this webinar over to my colleague, Stephanie St. Martin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jean. Welcome to our webinar, Twitter 101. As Jean said, I'm Steph St. Martin, and I am the social media manager for BC Alumni. So I actually manage all of the BC Alumni social media accounts. I hope you all are enjoying the week thus far, and I hope you are just as excited as I am for this webinar tonight. If you are on Twitter, I invite you to log in and tweet at us throughout the webinar using hashtag BCTweets. Now don't worry if you don't know what a hashtag is, we will get to that. I also want to remind you that you can submit questions either through the webinar program, as Jean said, or you can actually submit them via Twitter using this hashtag. And I think here is our table of contents. This is what I'm going to be covering tonight, so Twitter basics, searching on Twitter, customizing your profile, connecting with folks, so finding who to follow, how to keep organized, because it's definitely noisy out there, scheduling tweets, and of course finding jobs with Twitter. And I think we're on to our next poll, right, Jean?
Yes, we are. So the next poll is, how involved are you with Twitter? Please select one of these. Okay, I'm going to close that poll. And again, what we have is, we know that this is Twitter Basics and we're called this Twitter 101, and sure enough, 37% of you are saying that you don't have an account and you've never tweeted in your life. 27% say you have an account but you don't use it. 16% say you have an account but you mostly just read it. 12% say I'm somewhat active on Twitter and I occasionally tweet. And 7% of you online say you're a power tweeter.
Alrighty, so
back to you, Steph.
This webinar is perfect for most of you then. I hope you'll learn a lot, even if you are the most savvy of tweeters out there. I promise you I'll have some advanced tips as well. So what is Twitter? It's an online social networking and microblogging service that allows users to read and send tweets, which are limited to 140 characters. So this is a Twitter vocab sheet I've created for you, and it's also going to be available at bc.edu/alumni-ed. You can print this out, use it to refer to a lot, but I'm going to go through this on Twitter so that way you understand exactly what I mean rather than just reading it here. So let's do that right now. All right. So a tweet. This is my homepage. This is BC Alumni's homepage. And this is where you can compose a tweet. So if you look, I'm just going to get my little tool, my spotlight. Oop, I'll go back. All right, so if you look right here where it says 140, that's how long a tweet is. It includes punctuation, links, photos, but just be mindful that tweets with photos or links are actually limited to 117 characters. So you're even more limited if you choose to use a link or a photo. You can use sites though like bit.ly.com or buffer.com to shorten links, and that's actually what we use. So I'm going to attempt a tweet now, and you're going to see this countdown to show you how many characters I have left. So here we go. Oh. So thank you for joining us tonight for the BC And as you can see, you can make mistakes, but until you press tweet, nothing will happen. So I'm including my hashtag here, BC Tweets, and here we go, dun 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 dun, I've tweeted it. I now want to show you an example of using photography in tweets. So today is Thursday, and this is actually a popular hashtag. It's Throwback Thursday. That's what TBT stands for. And what that means is you're throwing it back to a time in the past, whether it's 50 years ago, a couple of months ago, last week. It really doesn't matter. So I'm actually going to throw it back to the last home game of the football season. And this, what I'm including right now, is BC Football News' handle, and I'll go into what that is in a second. And if you were wondering, Baldwin is on Twitter. So there's his little handle. And if I click on my photo, all this comes up. And I have saved Baldwin. There it is, Baldwin post game. See how it went down from 27 to 4? Image will appear as a link. So that's how much it took away. And I go ahead and tweet. Of course, it's thinking. And there we go. So if I click on my tweet, now you can see it. Pretty neat, huh? I'm also going to show you how to make your tweets a little shorter. 140 characters is not much. So I don't know if you guys know this, but we do have our last hockey game of the season on Saturday. So it's on Saturday versus Notre Dame. I'm going. I hope you guys are too. All right, so what happened here? I clearly went over my limit. See how it says 14 in red with that negative sign? It means I've done too many characters. So this is how I recommend fixing this tweet. So instead of saying it's the last, let's just say last. You can be a little more casual. Last home game of, and we'll just say 14. Well, at least of this season. They'll be back next fall. And we can get rid of and. We'll use the ampersand. And there you go. I now have 4 left. I've made it, and I can tweet. So that's basically what tweeting is. Now the handle, this is what I've been talking about. It's right here. This is my handle with the @ sign. and that is only 15 characters. It's a good ego boost to others when you mention people by their handle on Twitter. So if they've written an article or done something interesting, you should always, always try to include it. Your handle can be anything. It can be what we have for a brand, BC Alumni. For my personal Twitter, I have my first and last name. If you want to do something different, go ahead, but you only have 15 characters, so make sure you keep that in mind. Retweeting. So here's something. You see this little green thing right here? That means Francesca retweeted this tweet. So if I wanted to retweet someone, we'll go to BC Tweets real quick to see what's going on. There we go. Kendall, she is happy to be here. We're happy to have you, Kendall. So I'm actually going to press this button, and I've now retweeted her. See how it goes in green? What that basically means is if you're familiar with email, when you forward an email on to additional recipients, that's what a retweet is. But instead of a few additional recipients, it's everybody who follows you. So I've just retweeted Kendall's message to 8,450 people. We're kind of a big deal. I'm just kidding. There's another way you can retweet as well. So if I go back to home, and forgive me for jumping around, if I wanted to retweet Kendall, I could do RT, that stands for retweet, and then I could include her handle. So Kendall, she's getting a lot of press tonight for all this, but we appreciate it, Kendall. Did I do it right? There she is. She popped up, and she said, at BC Alumni, which I can spell, happy to be here. BC Tweets. And then you would tweet it. So those are the two different ways you can retweet. Mention. When you mention someone on Twitter, meaning you retweet them or include them in a tweet, it lets them know through this tab right here called Connect. This is your interactions tab. So if I click on this, it means people have engaged with my handle. Oh, thanks for following me, guys. So you see a bunch of people have followed us. She retweeted us. Thanks, Pamela. Katie, we will get back to you on that, I promise, after the webinar. Learning some tweeting techniques. Thanks, Glenn. So you can see everything that's gone on. If you saw what I did with Glenn right there, I just favorited his tweet. That's basically a like on Twitter. If something is really great on Twitter, as Glenn's tweet clearly is, makes you laugh, it could be just a great comment, you want to make sure you favorite it. So thanks, Glenn, for that. That makes us feel great. Your Twitter feed, again, I'm jumping around, but as I said, it's included on that that slide I showed you earlier. So you'll be able, this is our feed. So this is not only all the tweets that my followers are doing, but it's also retweets they've done. So we follow Sammy, and by default, we get Sammy's retweets. Will McCarran we follow, and he retweeted this. Apparently, that's pretty cool. So you can see different things. We follow Paula Eben. She works, as you guys know, for WBZ. So she's tweeting, and we follow her. So that's why she pops up on our feed. Direct message. It looks like we have one. I'm a little scared. But this is a direct message. Thanks, Grant. And this is where private messages are shown per Twitter. So these are people I've been talking to privately. Only them and I can see it. And basically, the only way this works is that both people have to be following each other. So for example, I use this when I have to get personal information a lot. Grant and I are friends, and we're actually going to tweet with Grant in a little bit. But we would be able to say, okay, I need your address, and you don't want everybody on Twitter knowing where your personal address is. So that's what you use it for. But again, the only way you can do a direct message is if you do, in fact, follow each other. So keep that in mind. If the person doesn't follow you back, you will not be able to direct message. Now, some people out there have set up automatic messages when you follow them. So for example, thanks for following me. Be sure to follow my blog. This is spam. I hate it. Most people do, and I really don't recommend that you guys do it. You'll do far better with thanking them publicly on Twitter, like thanks for the follow. rather than doing it privately. It's considered spam. Hashtags. We're going to get into this a little bit more, but this is considered a hashtag, so BC tweets. And what happens when I type that in right there is I'm searching for everybody who mentions BC tweets. So there's top, now I'm going to all, and it's a really good way to expose yourself to a wider audience. So hashtags are meant as a shortcut to explain what your tweet contains or to show you're part of a conversation or event. Trending. Boston trends. So this is what's going on in Boston right now. This is what people are tweeting about. These topics right here are so popular that millions and millions of people are tweeting about them. There you go, Loretta. Millions and millions of people. So you really want to make sure you know what's going on. So if I click on Taco Bell, I could see there's Throwback Thursday, so I know that's, tweets about things going on in the past. Bobby Knight, Mall Cop, maybe there's a new movie coming out, Grey's Anatomy is on. So these are all Boston trends. Trending topics usually are sporting events or worldwide or things of that nature. Now I can change it out of Boston and just say, you know what, I actually only want to pay attention to the United States. I don't need to know what's just going on in Boston. So if I press done, it's changed. So TBT went away, but we still have Bobby Knight and Mall Cop and Grey's Anatomy. So I'm just going to go ahead and change it back to Boston because that's what I like it on. So, and you can do this for your own city if you have New York or Chicago. Feel free. So back to what it was. How are we doing, guys? Feel free to tweet at me, ask questions. All right. So let's go back to my deck. There we go. So again, you guys will have, I think I went through all those, so you should be all set. This is one of my favorite things, so I want you guys to take a minute to read it. Hopefully you'll chuckle at the end, but I'll let you read it. So as you guys remember, it's 140 characters long. That's it. So there's commas, there's periods, spaces. It's going to affect how you tweet, and you saw the countdown we did earlier. But keep this in mind, it's not a lot of room. Really, I want you to think about conversations on Twitter. 400 million tweets are sent every single day. 400 million. That's a lot. But how many of those are actual conversations? So I have gone ahead and set this lovely dinner scene for you guys. And I want you to imagine there, enjoying the scenery, enjoying dinner. But what if the person across the table from you was an absolute narcissist? What if the only thing, and I'm going to use a guy, he was talking about was himself? Every sentence was about his latest update, his travels, his family. After a while, you might ask yourself why you're even there, right? Twitter should really be about conversations, and it's one of my biggest pushes with the BC alumni social media accounts. I want to keep the social on social media. We don't want to just push news at you. You guys can go to the bc.edu website. You can go to Boston Globe. You can go to ESPN. You'll find BC News. But why are you following and interacting with us? If I'm not adding value beyond just the headlines, I'm doing it wrong. And BC alumni really wouldn't be worth following. Now, would it? So I want you guys to think about that when you tweet. Why are you tweeting? What are you tweeting for? What conversations are you starting? And these conversations really don't have to be formal. You can be casual. As I showed you earlier, you can use the ampersand instead of the word and. You can use the letter U instead of the word U if you need to save some characters. If you're familiar with texting, as I've shown here, Twitter can be just that. Think about, it's just like texting. You can have casual conversations with celebrities, sports teams, brands, whoever. And it really doesn't have to be formal at all. And with that, I really want you guys to think about the speed of Twitter, right? Think about your own text messaging habits. I know I get a little annoyed if I've texted somebody and they're not getting back to me right away. It's like, what's taking you so long? Where are you? It's frustrating. Either that or I'm impatient, one of those. But that's the same mindset on Twitter. People want an instant response. That's what they're expecting. And one trend I'm currently noticing is that people are tuning into Twitter for customer service issues. No one's calling stores anymore, right? Like, is there a person on the other end of the phone? You're lucky if you get a real person. An email can take a week, 48 hours. It's not instant. Twitter is becoming that instant response. Brands like JetBlue are known for their amazing speed. Seriously, if you want to see how Twitter is done, follow JetBlue. They are so fast when it comes to questions and concerns, and I really want you guys to keep that in mind when you tweet or try to respond to people. You're not on there all the time every day like I am, so I think I have a higher bar set to me and set to the BC alumni account, but it is something to keep in mind when you are tweeting. Now, why do I have this up, right, this Batman and Robin text messages? Well, this is from a website I personally love called superheroes.com, and they do these really funny texts between superheroes. And as a social media manager, I have power. I've been told I can make somebody's day if BC alumni favorites their tweet, or if BC alumni retweets them, or if BC alumni engages with them. So just keep in mind, with great power comes great responsibility. And I'm very aware of that with the BC alumni account. So hopefully that made you smile. So are you guys ready to tweet? Alrighty. So we can easily see how Twitter conversations work, right? Maybe. In the movies, it's a lot easier to tell. We're going to see two characters interacting with each other. We know they're communicating. As you can see with the Toy Story 3 script, each character has a line. So you can see Rex is talking right here, Woody, and then Jessie. We know when they're talking. Now, I included a picture of the Sixth Sense right here to illustrate that we're not always 100% sure that a conversation actually occurred. I'm not going to say what happens during the movie, no spoiler alerts, but you can see that you're not always sure, right? Well, here's how Twitter conversations work. Just like a movie script, we can tell when Twitter conversations are actually taking place. Instead of what you see in movies with each character having a line, mentions of the user's handle are going to help us show that a conversation is taking place. So when you start a tweet and you want to have somebody see your tweet, just you don't actually need this period. If you want the conversation to be just between you, Woody, and Buzz, you don't need the period. But if you do want everybody else to see the tweet, you do have to put a period if you start the handle here. So that's a little confusing. I'm actually going to show you what is taking place or how that works right now. So I have two good friends on standby for me. One of my friends is Miss Amy Calhoun. She is a BC 2010 alumna. So I'm going to talk to Amy. So as you can see, there's her username. I put the period before it. I want everyone to see it. Hey, Amy, are you going to the hockey? Well, let's include BC Hockey News, right? There they are. That's their handle. Game on Saturday. And I'll include the hashtag. And let's see what happens. Amy, you better be there. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Okay. Well, let's see. So I'm waiting to see. She'll be there. If not, we have somebody else on standby. And again, 20 seconds. So look how impatient I am, right? Like, you should be on this, but this is what happens. We can also try Grant. As you saw, we were messaging beforehand. So Grant Salzano is also a 2010 alumni or alumnus, and he is one of the BC Interruptions hockey bloggers. So we'll say hi to Grant, and we don't know where that Amy is. Now the reason I'm doing this is, look, I'm talking with Grant, but I'm actually bringing Amy into the conversation by mentioning her handle. And notice I don't have a period there. I don't have one. because you don't need to include the period unless it's at the very beginning of your tweet. Let's see what Grant says. Oh, there's Amy. So you guys see that right there? Amy saying, of course I am. Can't wait. We are BC. And that's awesome. I'm going to favorite that. But you can now see this line right here showing us that there's a conversation taking place. So let's talk to her again. We'll leave hockey news out of it. Awesome. So excited to see you there. What about you? And there's Grant from Connecticut. That's where Grant lives. And we'll tweet it. Oh, women's basketball. And again, as you mentioned, people, because she replied to me, did not need to include the period. So if you press this button, you don't need it. I always do. It's a habit you should get into. So feel free to do that. Kendall, we will get to that. I promise. I'll show you. All right. So that's what I'm going to go back and go into Twitter search. So hopefully this makes sense. If you guys have questions, feel free to, type them in and I'll get to them at the end. Oh, somebody's talking to me. There's Grant. Really, Grant? All right. Here we go. So back to this. Hopefully that made sense and that worked for you guys. So searching on Twitter. Twitter search shortcut. So if you're looking for people or tweets in your area, you can actually, in the search bar, go near, no space, quotation, city, state, close the quotation, and it will help you find tweets in your area. Because sometimes with Twitter, people actually have saved where they're tweeting from. So if you're trying to connect with people in your area, this is one of my favorites. You can also do -filter, links, again, no space. See that there's no space there. And you won't get any tweets that use links. So if you're trying to avoid spam, it's a good idea. And anytime you get really good results, you want to save that search. So I'm going to show you how this is done. And forgive me for kind of bouncing around, but I feel like this is better than me just kind of talking. So we have Boston College. Notice I'm using the quotes. And we're just going to go to all. Let's see. It looks pretty good. Oh, they're talking about our happy video. Hopefully you guys saw that today. But I can click right here, save, and that search will be saved. And then if you go here, you can actually find in your settings any saved searches. So it's just a good way, especially if you're a marketer, to have saved searches at your availability. Hopefully that makes sense. All righty. Oh, and there it is. All right, hashtags. So how can you find tweets about certain topics on Twitter? By using hashtags. A hashtag is a word or phrase presented before a pound sign, right there, preceded, excuse me, by a pound sign, and used to identify messages on a specific topic. Now that's what the hashtag started out as. It was to identify events and people searching on specific topics. So it's a way to organize tweets, and it's what it's continued to be, this searchable kind of notion. However, there's been the second type of hashtag where the emphasis is on the emotional. So I tried to give you two examples. Clearly, I'm a Red Sox fan. But for example, you could say, if you wanted an emotional hashtag, stayed out till 2 a.m. last night, hashtag tired, right? So if you look at the two examples I have in front of your screen, good luck to hashtag Red Sox. I hope you bring home another hashtag World Series trophy. The emphasis, I just spent 12 grand to catch Game 6 of the World Series, hashtag YOLO. And what that means is you only live once. Now, if you guys are still unsure what I mean by this, I want you to go ahead after the webinar and search for Jimmy Fallon hashtag on YouTube. The Tonight Show host has done quite really funny videos about a hashtag. There's two But quick disclaimer, there is some offensive language in it, and I didn't include it in this PowerPoint as a result. But if you do want to understand hashtags better, I definitely recommend watching either video. So once again, you would search on YouTube Jimmy Fallon hashtag. Now there are millions and millions of hashtags. And I've showed you a few here. I'm not going to go through all of them. But as a good rule of thumb, when you tweet, only use 2. Don't go all hashtag crazy on me. Only use 2. It's going to be better for you, better for your user experience. I am going to highlight a few. As I told you about Throwback Thursday, you guys know that one. You know you only live once now. Forward Friday, this one right here, people use it on Friday, so tomorrow, to recommend other accounts that people should follow. So for example, if your friends are on Twitter, or if there's some marketer who's doing great things and you want the world to know about it, you would do a tweet with Forward Friday, hashtag FF, and then include the person's handle. That's pretty easy. Oscars are Sunday nights. If you want to participate, you would use hashtag Oscars. Sometimes there's hashtag Jesuit. We see that. This was for the Super Bowl. TV shows have hashtags. This one is kind of silly, but it's one that trends every now and then. Replace song title with something. So for example, instead of Sweet Caroline, it would be Sweet Puppy. People think it's funny. It's a trend. I just want you to be aware of it. Customizing your profile. So again, as a gentle reminder, you want to customize your username, and it's only 15 characters, so really make sure you keep that in mind. If you are on Twitter, I urge you to customize your profile picture. That right there. There is nothing more annoying than seeing an egg for a profile picture. I want to see you. I want to see who you are or what you like. It doesn't have to be a personal photo. It can really be anything. But I really think it's important to get away from the egg. The egg is not good, so make sure you customize it. There's your username. There's your bio, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But this is a header image. So the picture of Baldwin we have is called a header image, and you can customize that. Now I've seen more pictures of Gasson Hall, Stokes, Alumni Stadium. All of them have been header images. On my own personal Twitter, I actually have a picture of Fenway Park. And it's basically anything you want it to be. There's no rhyme or reason or rules, but we do like to see, those of us on social media, some kind of customization. And as with anything else, if you see somebody's header image that's awesome, great. Look to others for inspiration. You'll really be able to see what you like and what you kind of want to borrow from and get inspired by. All right, I'm going to click through some bios here as I talk about this, but bios are so important. So these are some out there, and I wanted to pause on Hillary Clinton's. When she joined Twitter, it's been under a year. It hasn't been a year yet. This is what her bio says, and you have 160 characters. Wife, mom, lawyer, woman and kids advocate, floor, FLOTUS, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, so State, author, dog owner, hair icon, pantsuit aficionado, glass ceiling cracker, TBT. The pantsuit aficionado got more buzz on social media. People thought that was hysterical, and it really showed a sense of humor. So don't be afraid to, show humor in your bio. And I'm going to click up some as we continue. But a bio, as you can see with Hillary, is a really good way to say who you are. What are the keywords that you're about? And if you include a keyword like Red Sox fan, you want to make sure you tweet about the Red Sox. If somebody has bios that say like cutest pictures of baby animal ever, I want to see baby animals. So I'm expecting to see that in their Twitter feed. If I don't see that, I'm not going to follow them. As you can see with Jimmy Fallon, you can definitely have a sense of humor. I don't think he's an astrophysicist. More power to him if he is. But with anything, make sure you double check your grammar. You want to be professional. You can put proud BC alum. You can put mom, wife. If you work at a company, though, and you mention that you work there on Twitter, you really want to put a disclaimer such as tweets and opinions are my own. Double check with your company to see if they have a policy, but this is something most people do. So if you do say that you work at, say, Boston College and you're explicit, you want to make sure you write tweets and opinions are my own. These are some of the BC ones coming up. There's Ben Smith. Ben went to BC and he's now with the Chicago Blackhawks, won a Stanley Cup with them. Clinton Kelly is a BC alum, the guy from What Not to Wear. He's sensational. Then you got Mr. Matt Ryan. So these are, and really, does Matt Ryan need more than just a Landon Falcons QB? Probably not. You know who he is. Connecting with people on Twitter. So I'm going to go through this. I'm not actually going to go to these sites, but again, if you do have questions after, let me know. I'm happy. I'll visit them then if you want to see it. Follower Wonk is one of my favorite tools out there to connect with people. What it allows, it has you're able to search people's Twitter bios. So that's why it's really important that if you want other Red Sox fans to find you, you put that in the bio. Or if you want other BC alumni to follow you, put that in the bio. So actually, let me show you. I changed my mind. Let's go in. I saw it. There it is. Alrighty. See how it says right up here, search Twitter bios? So if I click there, I think it's come out, and I search proud BC alum, these are all those people who have this in their bio. Hopefully that came up. Now keep in mind, this is the exact match. That's why that's right there for proud BC alum. People might put BC alumna, BC alumni, Eagle for life. So you actually would need to search all of those to find all the BC people. And BC alum doesn't necessarily mean Boston College, right? I mean, we know that, but it could be Bates College, it could be another school. So you want to double check sometimes to make sure they're actually a BC alumni. I'm going to switch back out. I'll go back here because I'll need it later. Alrighty. Another way to connect with folks is to have conversations with them. You saw Amy, Grant, and myself doing that. This is something we talked about at the beginning of the webinar, right? Conversations. You know, a conversation, one of my favorite quotes I've heard is a conversation is a dialogue, not a monologue, right? So make sure you're actually conversing with people. Ask them questions, retweet them, engage in current conversations. So hopefully you're all tweeting right now using BC Tweets and you'll follow each other as a result. You're like, oh, they're an alumni. You can actually follow people first. Most people will follow you back. Celebrities usually don't. Sports teams and brands, not always. They're not always going to follow you back. But most people, if you follow them first, they're really, really good about it. And you know, anytime you retweet somebody or give them a mention, it's really a nice ego boost on social media. And people really appreciate that. So it's a really good way to, I guess, attract people to, you know, following you if you don't want to do that explicit, you know, follow back type of thing. Tweet up and Twitter chats. What is this, right? Well, a tweet up is a local meetup with tweeters in the real world. We get out from behind our computer screens. They head to a local bar or restaurant, and they meet up in real life in person. Now, usually tweet ups are similar to a networking night. You might see people, you know, exchange business information. But I've also heard of tweet ups at a sporting event, and I've even heard of one where they all went bowling. So it can really be anything. Nothing's out of the question. A Twitter chat, on the other hand, is an interactive chat at a scheduled time on Twitter. So surprise to all of you, you're actually in one. By using BC Tweets between 7 and 8 tonight, you're in a Twitter chat. Who knew, right? These are often industry-based, so you can find Twitter chats about marketing, about veterinary medicine. I've seen stuff on pet care when I was doing stuff for the Globe. So, you know, I've seen nonprofits do it, I've seen companies, and it's a great way to communicate with your customers. Now, if a hashtag is being used, like we've said, use BC Tweets, use it in your tweets, right? You'll be able to engage with more people. People will see that you're contributing to the conversation, and you may gain followers even by not tweeting at these people, but because you're using the hashtag. And there's a good chance that you'll get followers from this. And I believe, Jean, we're up to a poll, right?
Yes, we are, Steph. So our third poll of the night is, which of these topics would you find of interest for a Twitter chat? Please select one now. Okay, last few seconds. Terrific. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now. Looks like you've all voted. And what we see is that 27% of you would like something on career programming, 23% on an academic topic, and then social media and lifestyle come in very strong as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that, Jean. Definitely we will have career planning. That's something I'm more than happy to set up and schedule, so keep an eye peeled. If not this, before May, because we have reunion coming up, you might see it in the fall. So thanks for that feedback. That's stuff I love. So if you guys ever have ideas or anything, send it along. Organization. The biggest reason I hear that people aren't on Twitter is that they can't keep up with it. It's too fast, there's too much going on, there's too much noise. Well, I am going to give you probably a saving grace right now with Twitter lists. So it's a great way to organize, and I'm going to pop back out to show you what I mean. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. Let's minimize that. Sorry about that, guys. Let's try it again. There we go. So Christmas came early for social media managers last year. Twitter expanded its Twitter lists from just 20 to 1,000. And of those 1,000 lists, you can actually have 5,000 accounts in them. So you can really create lists on anything. If you're looking for a job, you could create a list of companies called, on Twitter, companies I love. You could name it that. And when you click on the list, you will only see those companies' feeds. So here's what I mean. To create a list, you're going to go to this Me tab right up here. So I've clicked on it. There I am. And there's lists. It's the fourth one down, well, the fifth if you count tweets, right there. And I want you all to click on it. And then here is how you go to create list. It's right here on the right. That's where you can find it. So you would click Create List, name, description. Look, under 100 characters. You can keep them private or public. It's up to you. We keep all ours public by default. And you close. Now, just keep in mind, whatever you name your list, people will be notified that they're on that list. So be conscious of what you name it. You don't want to name it anything offensive or weird, so just be conscious. Here's how you can add accounts to the list. So I'm going to bug Grant again. We'll go to his and give Grant and Amy a follow. Guys, they're awesome. Here's Grant. So if I go to this gear icon, right here next to his following button, add or remove from lists. Grant's in the class of 2010, so I can click that. I unclicked it, and now he's back on it. And that's how you do it. So I've actually created this list already. So once you create it, you can access it. If I wanted to add Grant to a new list, we would do what we did before, lists, create lists, and we'll say test, test, save list, and here we go. So you would just add Grant this way. There he is. There he is. So either way is fine. I'm probably going to get rid of that list after this Twitter webinar. So Grant, I'm sorry, I'm going to remove you. But hopefully that made sense. Now you can also subscribe to lists that other people have created. So as you guys can see right here, is we have a list for every class from 1960 on. So I'm sure if I scroll down, it's going to mess up the webinar, but trust me, it's there. And if we go to 2004, somebody actually subscribed to this list, meaning they can now access the same feed of just the class of 2004. If I click here, it shows you all the members of the Boston College class of 2004. So these are all the people, and 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is people will actually find their class list and just follow all their classmates, and I'm completely fine with that. That's what it's there for. So in fact, if you guys want to tell me what class you are, we'll add you the class list after the webinar is over. So if you all want to type in BC Tweets and then whatever your class year is. So I'm 07, but you, if you're 98, you would put 98, 85, you would do 85. And then go ahead. And I'll go in after the webinar is over and add you guys to your list, and hopefully you'll be able to connect with your classmates. Back to the PowerPoint. Oh, I did it again. I'll get good at it, guys, I promise. All right. That was embarrassing. Now we're good. Okay. Here's TweetDeck. What is TweetDeck? Well, TweetDeck is the only way I am able to keep up with you guys. There's so many different things that people tweet with Boston College. Some people tweet at BC Interruption. Some people will tweet at Boston College. Obviously, Jim Husson, our SVP, I want to make sure I know when he tweets. I like to see what other alumni associations are doing. Like, is Bucknell doing something that we should be doing? Or Johns Hopkins? We like to stay competitive. So let me show you how you use it. It's a free tool. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So here's the deck. So I have messages over here. Those are my private DMs. These are people who have mentioned at Boston College. People love this happy video. I really hope you guys have a chance to watch it. Oh, cupcake sounds delicious. Thanks, Kitty. As you can see, this is what BC has tweeted today, what they've retweeted. I like to know what they're doing. As you can see, the other alumni associations, BC Interruption, Jim Husson. People use We Are BC, right? So you can see when that happens. And with the women's basketball game going on, that's what they're going to use. So let's say I actually want to add something. What about the bean pot? So I'm going to click on that. And that's not appropriate, so we're going to get rid of that. All right, let me try Neenan Society. That might be better. Here we go. So maybe I want to add a column anytime somebody mentions the Neenan Society. So I would add this column, and as you can see, it's been added over here. And I can keep an eye on any time that somebody does it. So it's really good to use for me because I have to keep up with all of you. You guys are super active and I love it, but I want to make sure I'm responding to people timely and doing all that stuff. So I hope this helped getting kind of a live demonstration of TweetDeck, but it's one of my favorite tools. You can customize it as you want to. And thanks in advance, guys, for putting your years. I love seeing that. All right, is this the right one? Yes. All right, scheduling. So I think Kendall had a question about scheduling, so hopefully this will help her. I am about to take you guys behind the curtain of what goes on with BC alumni. Now, we use a program, I'm going to hop back out, called Sprout Social. Here, let's give that a refresh because it went through. So there we go. Now, you guys may see tweets from BC alumni at all hours of the day. And you may say, are you ever not working, Stephanie? Yes, I am. I actually have scheduled stuff in advance, so I'm not always live tweeting. Sprout, like other programs, allows you to schedule tweets months in advance. You can change them the day of. You can see how they're performing. Now, as you can see, I have Facebook scheduled for tomorrow for feedback day. We have tweets going out. It's great. So let me go home to my dashboard. Actually, here we go. And actually, let me go into my reports. It just shows you right here, actually, what our demographics are. I can see that we have slightly more male followers than female followers, and this is obviously clearly different on Facebook. I can see the age brackets, and this is actually pretty interesting because Twitter is the exact opposite of this. Twitter by user has about 55% female and 45% male. So BC is the exact opposite, which I find really interesting. But I think we have another poll, right, Jean?
Yes, we do. Very, very simple for our last poll of the night. And it's simply, are you a male or female? Vote now. Okay, a few more seconds. And we've got just about everybody, so I'm going to close that now. And tonight, 70% are female and 30% male on tonight's webinar.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Steph, we only have 8 more minutes, so I just wanted to give you that little time head up.
Yep, no worries. So as you guys can see here, if you are interested in scheduling, Sprout does offer a 30-day free trial. Hootsuite is free for individuals, but if you do want to use it for a business, those are the prices right there, and I've included some free sites for you as well. So hopefully that's going to help you out. Finding jobs with Twitter. So everyone is looking for a job, so how do you stand out from the crowd? And Twitter can definitely help you out here. There are companies that only list their job opportunities on Twitter. So you need to follow those companies to make sure you're notified about job opportunities. Now these are a little bit of handles by region you can follow. Also, these are some main ones right here. And it's really great to use. Now, there's Hire Eagles. That's what we use to let other Eagles know about job opportunities we found. So if your company has a job they're trying to fill, use hashtag Hire Eagles and we'll be able to retweet it to everybody. But ask yourself if the company is on Twitter, because if the company is on Twitter, you, like I said, you want to follow them. And then when you go into the interview, mention what you saw on Twitter. It's going to make you stand out from the crowd. People want someone who wants a job with that company, not just any old job. I've also included some other websites here. These do have Twitter accounts, Mashable, Daily News, and they do. So you can look there, but the websites are just as good, and I wanted to make sure I highlighted that. All right, resources. Tweetp.com allows you to see how active people are on Twitter. So for example, if I follow someone and they haven't tweeted in a year, what value are they adding to me, right? So I can go into Tweetp and see how active they are, and then what they call it flushing your account of unfollow. So you can unfollow people and kind of get rid of the dormant folks, if you will. Follower wonk, as you guys know, on Twitter there's a discover feature. You can use that to see. It's kind of like a personally tailored things that Twitter thinks you'll like, which is awesome. Quitter is they'll send you an email anytime somebody unfollows you, which is kind of nice. And then TweetBeat gives you a list of trending topics. So here's your Twitter checklist, and I think we have about 5 minutes left. Let people know you're tweeting. You want followers? Add your handle everywhere. It's a good idea. Focus on your passion. Really develop a niche and define what you're tweeting about. Be a good Twitter community member, so retweet some good stuff, give mentions, don't steal other people's tweets, that's bad. Ask questions. And of course, listening. This is the best listening device. You can get so much info. So with that, follow me. Make sure you join your Facebook class group. We have class groups for all the classes on Facebook. And we have our next webinar is LinkedIn on March 25th at 7 p.m. how to land your job with them. You can sign up at the bc.edu/alumni-ed website, and there's my email. All right, Jean, questions?
Yes, we have a few questions tonight. So I thought this one we could start with. It says, are hashtags necessary when tweeting? What is its purpose? And I don't use them when I tweet. Should I?
So hashtags.
So all about hashtags, Steph.
Yeah, hashtags aren't entirely necessary. You don't need to include them in every tweet. But if you are tweeting during something where you're trying to get more followers or an event, it's always a good idea to include it. I know for the Super Bowl, a lot of people included hashtag, SB41 or whatever number we were on. So you don't have to, but it does make your tweets a little more searchable. But it's not necessary at all. Hopefully that explains it.
Okay, another question says, why do you keep including hashtag BC tweets at the end of each tweet? That was earlier in the webinar. Can you explain why you used that?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, because I'm considering this, as I said, kind of a Twitter chat, I wanted to make sure I continued to use the hashtag BC tweets. So for this hour, I just wanted to make sure I kept it organized, saying this was what I was tweeting about for the next hour. I won't use it again, I promise. I won't use it, in any more alumni tweets unless we do a Twitter chat with that as the hashtag. But that's why I was including it. It was just an organizational tool. So if others were following along the hashtag, they would not only see BC alumni tweets, but other people on this webinar who were including that hashtag. So I was trying to help people kind of get more followers and more steam. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, and another question. How do I recruit people to follow me on Twitter?
Well, we went through that, right? So I think it's a great idea to follow people first. Hopefully they'll follow you back. I also think it's a great idea to, get out there and tweet. If I have no shame, so let me just say it that way. I have no shame. I tweet at anyone and everything, and I hope for the best. But, if there isn't a conversation that you are enjoying, you could favorite it, you could retweet it, you could ask direct questions to people you like. It's a really good way to kind of show them that you're a good community member, but also what value are you adding? So what tweets are you doing? If you're trying to be one of the best marketers, maybe you have to go find really good marketing articles and tweet those, and you'll get people's attention by kind of being constant and consistent with what you're tweeting.
Okay, and one final question. It says there's a little confusion about when to use the period at the beginning of a tweet with a handle. Mm-hmm. So can you kind of briefly talk about using the period or not using the period?
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to just go back to
between
it
a conversation.
Yep. So if you are tweeting at somebody and you are beginning your tweet with their handle, so I'll use myself here. If I do this, oh, there I am, only BC alumni and Steph St. Martin would see this tweet. That would be it, which is fine for most people. But as a brand, if somebody asks me a question, I want everyone to know that I'm replying. I don't want to seem like I'm ignoring people. So the period, you put it in, it's kind of like a starter to before this handle, because it says now that everyone can see the conversation between BC alumni and Steph St. Martin. And then if I was tweeting, though, and Steph St. Martin's handle was later on, so I will go, hey, as I'm talking to myself, the period goes away because this is no longer the very beginning of the tweet. It's pushed back in the body, so you don't need the period then, because now everyone will see I mentioned this handle. But if it's the very beginning and you want everyone to see that you guys are talking, you need the period. If you only want you two to see it, you don't need it. Hopefully that clears it up.
Okay. Someone did ask, and I can answer this one. It said, will this be available? Will the PowerPoint slides be available? And the answer is yes. They're actually already on our website. If you go to bc.edu/alumni-ed, that'll get you to the alumni education page, and on the left you'll see resources. So check out that page and you'll be able to find the PowerPoint slides from tonight, and this will be recorded, and when it's available early next week, that will also be on the Alumni Ed resources page. All right, that wraps up our webinar for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow you will receive an email asking you to complete a short survey, a little online evaluation of tonight's program. Yes, please take a few moments to complete the evaluation, because this will be very helpful for us as we move forward. This webinar has been recorded, as I said, and the PowerPoint slides are available. And thank you for being with us tonight. Good night from Boston College.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.